Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Brightworks, where I'm bringing you in a little bit before the start of the match because I wanted to bring attention to something that's pretty cool, and we don't usually see it in the cast because I skip past this part of the match usually, but it's these cool new circles right here. I just wanted to bring attention to them because they're such a neat little addition to the game here. You can see they basically give you a suggestion as to how you should play each spot in the game. It's really, really neat. So you have these frontline spots, and if you hover over it, it gives you some more details, by the way. You can see back here it says air, you can see on this one on the southern side it says tech. Pretty neat stuff, all said and done. But anyways, let's get into this match. Today we're playing on Rosetta. Personally, one of my favorite maps because it has such a high octane play loop. It oftentimes features commanders getting up to T3 pretty rapidly, and it does mean that if you're going to be playing some cheesy strategies, there's room for that as well, especially with these 10 metal per second metal extractors and some special spicy commanders enabled as well. Today we're going to be playing with Legion enabled. So President Joe Biden, the yellow player here, going to be playing as a Legion commander, as I'm sure there are plenty more here as well. In fact, the red team leader spawning as a Legion commander, going for a couple of those metal extractors into a couple of wind turbines. Oh, I see. We're playing with the Hornet balance patch. So one of the things that the Hornet balance patch adds is a change to the wind turbines, making energy turbines store a lot of energy. It's a pretty interesting change, and I personally like it. It certainly is convenient to have a bunch of energy storage right off the get-go. Is it IMBA? I'm not entirely sure, but it is a lot of fun. And the Hornet balance patch, it's great. It reworks a lot of things in the game, but it's very subtle, right? So maybe you can spot some things in this game that are changed by the Hornet's balance patch. If you do, feel free to put them in the comments. It's kind of like a Where's Waldo. Anywho, Falovian going to be the red team leader here, hailing at 17 open skill, but with loads of bronze chevrons. I feel like something has gone very strange with the chevron system, because I do also see that the blue commander here is 19 OS with 2 chevrons, and then the second in command is a 17 OS commander, Lacopa, who we've seen around a whole bunch, but is silver chevrons? Yeah, something very strange going on here. Anywho, on the other side of the map, our blue team leader, who is going to be going by the name of Barlover, going to be playing as a Cortex commander and going into some of those Cortex vehicles. Very, very well known and well loved, those Cortex vehicles, especially those Pounder tanks, very powerful in the early game against the early grunt spam. But of course, those brute tanks we've seen spammed out in mass as well in order to take advantage of the flimsy nature of typical T1 bots. Wow, that's a lot of solar panels right here. So I'm not sure where to put this one. I'm at a little bit of an impasse as far as whether this is a learner's game or whether there's some sort of, I don't know, some sort of strangities going on here, but either way, it does certainly seem like there's something interesting going on in this match. But we'll call it a learner's game because I think there are some genuine noobs here, if not some commanders that are smurfing. I want to be very hesitant to say. Lacopa is certainly one of them, a commander that's been around a while, and I definitely don't think is 17 open skill, yeah. Now, I could be wrong, of course. There's always the possibility that there's a big losing streak or something, but maybe there was something I didn't catch. Maybe there was an update that reset everyone's open skill values or some such. Tick blasted down right there by the commander, building some LLTs as the green commander marches forward. We do also have a Resbot out here. That's quite nice, eating up some of the metal on the red team's side of the map right here for the blue commander, Daisy Boss. Very, very nicely done. Going to go ahead and rob some of that very juicy resource out of the hands of the red team. Rosetta obviously features these very powerful metal extractors up here. They produce 10 metal per second, or at least that's the base metal production. The yellow commander, President Joe Biden, going to be going for a overcharge max right off the get-go here. You can see running out of metal for it, because these do cost 300 metal per second, is very, very expensive. After going for the bot lab here, because you need the constructor in order to do that, yeah, it does leave the yellow commander with a lack of funds right now. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe we see this canceled. I wouldn't mind seeing this Rocketeer cancel this, oh gosh, what are those called? Ballista. This Ballista canceled so that we can get this up and running. But eventually we do get it up and running, and you can see immediately pumping out 24 metal per second. So we're actually doing more than, there's some sort of funky settings going on here in this lobby. I'll try and point them out whenever I discover them. Sometimes I comb those settings beforehand, but it's very, very difficult to do in the replay browser. Anyway, 24 metal per second coming out of this overcharge max. Obviously a huge benefit to the yellow commander. The Seafoam green commander here going for a T2 lab off rip. Okay, that's another interesting maneuver. We're going to be going for that T2 lab very early on. T1 early gunship comes out right here. Those light gunships, the Mosquitoes, they remind me of the Ornithopters from the Dune franchise. I feel like it's pretty obvious similarity right there. The way they flutter their wings kind of makes me a little nauseous actually looking at it for too long. But anyways, they're a light gunship, right? So similar, I guess you could compare them to the Banshee. You can see they don't do much damage after, what was that, 3 or so missiles? Only 30% health remaining on that metal extractor, still not getting the kill there. Very, very light indeed. A couple of goblins running forward here as well. Trying to find some value. They are going to run headfirst into the LLTs and incisors of Barlover, though, and so will be cleaned up quite nicely. Goblins, effectively your T1 scout slash spam unit. They're a very, very cheap force that you can put it on the field really quickly. You can mass them up very quickly. I think they cost 25 metal apiece. Yeah, 25 metal and 50 energy is unbelievable. Compared to like the Tick, for instance, which I believe is 17 metal per second, you're paying not a whole lot more for quite a bit more value. Oh, okay. Bomber comes across the map and blows up one of those mexes. That's pretty annoying, actually. That is a 3.0 mex right there, gone down from Calisanti. Or Calicanti? We'll go with Calisanti for now. Cacophony up and running as well, firing away those high impulse AP rounds. Blasting away at these goblins over here. What the Cacophony is not, however, is a precise weapon of war. It's much more about field of fire and deploying as much bullet per second as possible. It does mean it struggles, though, against any of these units that move a little bit, yeah, a little bit faster on the field. Did the EMP get a little rework, too? That looks really nice. Wow. So many details changing about this game every single day. It's one of the reasons why I love it, of course. One of the reasons why I feel like a lot of people love it. But it does also mean we gotta keep up to date, right? So, worth it to watch some of these matches with maybe some funkier settings here and there. Mass Ballista Force built up for the Purple Commander Daisy Bot's going to be going up against Batman Hat, the Maroon Commander here, who does have all the mexes up and running and the LLTs. Those, wow, those missiles got a little rework as well. They have a little stripe on them and everything. Those look beautiful. They look like a javelin missile. Awesome stuff. The Ballista are a medium rocket bot. Yeah, medium rocket bot, which is pretty interesting. They are the only medium bot in any of the bot labs now, I do believe, because Cortex no longer has, I believe the Thug is still a light plasma bot. I wish we could check that out of a Cortex lab. Here we go. Yeah, it's a light plasma bot. So there's actually no, so the Ballista is the only medium bot out of any of the bot labs anymore. And it definitely shows. The Ballista is super, super powerful. It has a lot of tankiness to it that other bots simply don't have. It makes them really dangerous once you start to mass them, especially if they can connect these volleys of high-impact missiles. But of course, you pay a steep price, right? Just these 7 Ballista here costing 1,120 metal. Losing those Ballistas, and they are easy to lose, can cost you a lot of money in the long run. Early Amputator coming up on the high ground here, and I suppose I don't mind it. Yeah, I mean, as long as we have the energy infrastructure, and with some of these super powerful advanced solar collectors here for the Legion faction, they produce 100 energy per second as opposed to the default 75 that usually the advanced solar panels collect. Yeah, I guess I don't mind it. Some way to spend the energy, or spend the metal rather, is going to be important. The one thing is, though, these overcharged metal extractors do demand a high energy cost. It means you have to keep that energy high, otherwise you're going to run out of energy real quick. Decurion armored assault tanks on the front lines here. They have a rapid fire Gatling cannon, firing 50 caliber bullets at 100 rounds per second. This gun costs $1,200 to fire for 1 second, or whatever the Meet the Heavy said. Anybody else a big TF2 fan? I'm not the biggest TF2 fan, but I definitely love the lore. Anywho, Aggravators pushing forward right now, are trying to push forward to counteract these vehicle pushes, but that barrage is out and it makes it really inconvenient to step forward. A well-controlled barrage can effectively deny any kind of aggression. It can stop all the way up to even T2, because denying that field, that area of traversal, putting down that napalm and making it inconvenient to step forward into an area, can do so much more damage than just actually hitting the units for a little bit of damage, right? The napalm itself doesn't do a crazy amount of damage, but the fact that you can deny an entire area, you can cut off troops, you can block reinforcements, it's a very powerful tool in the field. One that Legion commanders are often to employ. Karkinos stepping forward, dual wielding their little lances and Gauss cannon riot shield things. They're actually a really sturdy force on the front line. Once their shield goes away, they're a little more susceptible to damage, but until that point, they can go face to face with even the best of them. Barlover's commander going down right here in a little two-pronged attack from the maroon and red commanders. Nicely done by Batman Hat and Folavian, the red commanders. the red and dark red commanders. And there go those Karkinos continuing to spear away with their little javelin-like lance thing. The other thing about these is that they regenerate their shield over time, eventually. There you go, you can see that one just put its shield back on, and there you go, that one as well, and that one as well. And then, of course, they raise their head up, right? So they take cover behind their shield, and they put their shield away when they're ripe and ready for it. It's pretty funny. Pretty cute unit design. It reminds me a lot of the way that the oh gosh, what are they called? The T2 Legion artillery units, the Quakers. The way that the Quakers work now, where they splay their legs out and kind of act like a little miniature riot tank, is very, very cool. Or not riot tank, siege tank, pardon me. Looks like we have the EMP rework enabled here as well. Cool to see. What the EMP rework changes is it makes EMP more of a sustained effect. It kind of builds up to its maximum effect and then falls off a lot slower as well. So as units become more and more EMP'd, they slow down, they fire slower, all that sort of stuff. And then as soon as those units are unparalyzed, they can move again, but then they no longer, they can't move at full speed for a while until they come completely off of the EMP cooldown. What a great push right here, my goodness. Grunt's getting a massive surround from Calicinte, the Lavender Commander, going up against the Tan Commander, using just a couple of Grunts, some Thugs, and some Rocketeers, or Aggravators, pardon me, pushing forward and obliterating that entire army of Aggravators right there. Just goes to show how important it is to have a good spread on your units, right? That would have gone a lot better if those Aggravators had been spread out. They wouldn't have traded phenomenally either way, but they would have traded a lot better. Aggravators having a hard time dealing with this long-range area control cluster artillery going up against, or protected rather, by these Karkanos here. Yeah, cool projectile. It splits into multiple projectiles, 3 projectiles to be precise. I believe the tier 2 one splits into 5 projectiles, I want to say. It's very effective though, and it only costs 850 metal. Which does mean it doesn't have as much range as Gauntlets and Agitators, and it doesn't do as much damage, but it does mean that you can get them up quite a bit sooner than either of those options. It means that with the right composition, with the right playstyle, yeah, you can do stuff like this, where you just creep forward with those LRPCs, these short-range PCs, short-range plasma cannons. We do need a different distinctor for them. They definitely fit into a different category than the usual ones that we're used to. Little bit of aggression over here as a couple of those planes push forward. Those are recon planes / fighter planes. They do both jobs simultaneously as they fall out of the sky. We do have a hive up and built here as well. Carry 6 drones and costs 15 metal and 500 energy to build each of those drones. So it does demand a little bit of a cost in order to keep this running, but it's very similar to any other static defense where it just has an upfront cost, and then once it's up and running, you basically just pay to maintain it. The aggression here from the red team looking fabulous, though. Decurion tanks looking for an opportunity to push forward. Those barrages finally coming within range and going to start firing away here. Once the barrages land their napalm on top of these, it's going to be pretty tricky for any of these units to stick around here. You can see those ballistas slowly being whittled down by the barrage's effect. That napalm is so insidious as it burns away at those units, chipping away 1, 2, 3% per second. You have to fight in that area to defend, but you can't fight in that area if, of course, your feet are melting off while you're standing there. Yeah, it makes it very uncomfortable, very, very inconvenient to say the very least. We also, of course, have access to the railgun trucks now. There they are. Little Lance, long-range skirmisher / anti-air. They fire a single high-damage projectile, very similar to, for instance, a sharpshooter. And here's a couple of those Belchers. Love the way the Belchers work. They have they're a rapid-paced movement unit. They're, I guess, an assault unit. They're a skirmish bot. I would say they're almost an assault unit. They fail a weird role, though, because they have so much range that they kind of work like a siege unit, but they also have this super powerful napalm attack, saturating a massive field with napalm right here, melting down any of these T1 units that they encounter, making it very difficult for the slower T1 units and even some of the slower T2 units to push forward. Otherwise, you're just going to be in constant napalm barrage. Loads of amputators coming up on the high ground right here. Maybe an overinvestment from the yellow commander here on the amputators. Going a little bit overboard, certainly. At this point, we are looking at a solid 3,400 metal worth of amputators. Very, very expensive for those relatively stationary defenses, right? You can't really move them around at all. Sprinters coming out to try and clean some of this up as well. Nicely done by the Hot Pink Commander, recognizing that there's a push here and trying to clean it up, trying to save the poor Brown Commander on the northern side, who is now suffering at the hands of a T2 Legion vehicle lab. There's the Medusa heavy rocket tank, firing away a barrage of 6 rockets at a time. Laser guided. Definitely an insidious weapon, perfect for melting down any of those higher health T2 and T3 units. As long as its laser beam is locked onto something, those missiles will connect with it. Makes it a very powerful weapon. Karkanos providing a lot of vision here, as well as the wheelie sprinting forward. What an excellent showcase of a lot of the Legion stuff. So happy to see this mixed into the bag here every once in a while. I do like to cast these Legion games. We see it a lot on live stream, which unfortunately didn't happen today as of recording this on a Saturday. But yeah, the Legion stuff pops up a lot in the streams. Whoops, pardon me there. And it does mean that sometimes I don't get an opportunity to cast it as much as I would like. Oh, sprinters. Oh, no. Oh, sprinters running through the flames. Oh, no. The friendly fire is massive. Those sprinters all losing 99% of their health, and there we go. Sprinters nicely cleaned up here by their ally forces, reducing them to essentially molten slag right there. Oh, that was unfortunate. Unfortunate pathing right there from that massive ball of sprinters to be cleaned up by just an unfortunate positioning. The napalm here. It does stack, so it does quite a lot of damage here over time as it finally builds up to enough. Even these lighter units here having problems sticking around and pushing forward. But, of course, the Belchers are prone to their own napalm as well, so if you can get them to fire at their own feet, then they're going to take a lot of damage as well. Looks like Joe Biden is going to be going into a T2 laboratory in the middle of the map. Typically speaking, the commander in charge of the middle of the map here is usually the one that commands the pace of the game. So if you can get a T2 lab up and if you can get that T2 mechs up and running, you can usually start up basically T3 production off of just that single mechs. Right here, though, it looks like we're going to be focusing more on the backline economy. We do have those advanced solar panels coming up, and we also have a couple of E-converters coming up here as well. Not bad whatsoever. We have a Bastion turret coming up here as well. The Bastion is sort of, what do I want to compare it to? I think the Pulsar is probably the closest comparison to the Bastion, except that it can fire consistently, right? And that sounds super OP. It does slightly less damage, but for all intents and purposes, it is an extremely strong static defense. All that said, it costs 4,200 metal in order to build one of these. Oh, we have a Perdition, the long-range napalm launcher. Man, we never get to see these. They're so cool. Here it goes. Firing away at that metal extractor right here in the middle of the map. Up goes the cannon. Boom! Just like you would see a, well, for instance, one of those hierarchy missiles out of a missile ship. There goes that napalm bomb. Falling out of the sky and directly into the face of that napalm, or into that beautiful metal extractor right there. What a wonderful investment. Yeah, going for one of these napalm launchers here to try and fire away at that metal extractor, denying a lot of that economy to Pyro Table. Very, very nicely done. Very difficult to deal with, too. There's not a perfect counter to that sort of thing other than just going ahead and, yeah, building a bunch of units and setting them forward. Gunslingers here trying to clean up the Karkanos. Curious to see how that matchup goes. Rocketeers trying to clean up wheelies as well. That's never going to work out well. LLT doing a good job, but the Rocketeers hitting basically none of their shots. This army is encroaching on the northern side. We need some sort of solution to it immediately. Otherwise, yeah, Lakopa's just going to be comfortably pushing forward once more. Gambit Man has gotten up to a T2, is producing a T2 constructor right now. Down it goes, though, those long-range missile launchers, the Boreas, the stealthy mobile rocket launcher, similar to the rocket launchers of other factions. In fact, virtually identical. Blast down that laboratory, reducing it to slag. Medusa's here. Oh, connecting in a big way against those gunslingers. Blasting those down very rapidly. Medusa's the perfect anti-tank weapon because they do such a high burst of damage while also connecting 100% as long as their laser beam is pointed in the right direction anyways. There we go. Let's see the fat boy. In a lot of trouble here. Down about 30% HP from just a single blast from one of those. Brilliant. Landmines have been set up here. Interesting. Light landmines set up by Tony Rules 8, the Orange Commander, just going ahead and mining the ever-living snot out of this entire side of the map, trying to make sure that no units feel comfortable stepping forward. Right now, there's a bunch of arquebuses out on the field as well. Look at those quad cannon tri-cannon railgun siege units firing away out of their Scorpionek bodies. Very cool indeed. The red team needs some aggression. They need some pep in their step, certainly, because right about now there is nothing to stop this push on the northern side. There's a couple of units. I mean, the Fat Boys are nice and all, but they're not necessarily the fastest units on the field. While they're in position, they're very effective, but, you know, one of the best things about units is that they can just go around. Fat Boy accidentally killing the laboratory here of his commander. Gambit Man having a rough time. Medusa tank having a fabulous time. So harrowing to watch those missiles or watch that laser beam lock onto your commander. Fat Boy will be the remedied target there. And the air forces have been ravaged. Incinerators having a field day, blasting down whatever they can, melting apart a bunch of these units, but they do accidentally, friendly fire themselves and their commanders. They have a hard time turning that beam off. Once you kind of commit to it firing, you can't really, you can't really change that. One of the hard things about incinerators is that you have to be very conscientious about the fact that they will continue firing if you decide to move them. You essentially have to treat them like a static defense that can be repositioned, but not necessarily changed while it's firing. Well, there we go. Tsar is reduced to slag here as well. The D-gun on one of them here, but I don't think the second one is even necessary as those incinerators blast right through the armor plating on that Tsar, leaving it a molten wreck. Essentially a mobile bastion turret. A pirate table has neglected to rebuild this metal extractor on the high ground here. We do have a overcharge max, but we haven't gone for a T2 max, which is a little bit of a bummer. We'd be up to 48 metal per second out of that. Actually, the yellow commander not doing that either. Okay. Well, I guess that means we're neck and neck here. We do have a Legionnaire up in the air. It rhymes, so it must be true. Well, I guess I just rhymed air with air, huh? Anyways, the Guma Borek pink commander here, sending that Legionnaire to go try and defend while a couple of welders do hit the battlefield here. So the brown commander has been handed some welders and is going to be trying to hold command over this section of the map right now. Not the end of the world, but you do have to be very cautious about using those up because, well, obviously you don't actually have the T2 lab over here, right? Incinerators stepping forward, using their pulsar beams to try and, or their bastion heat ray beams to try and melt down some of these units over here. Doing a great job of it for what it's worth. Mostly. The Arquebus, though, more than happy to blast these things down. Arquebus, of course, with a massive spike of damage right there. A burst damage kind of unit. Oh! Phoenix is misrallied right there, accidentally missing the army. Bad intel means they don't connect in any meaningful way. And the Arquebus continue their reign of terror. They need desperately to kill that last incinerator. Units moving forward, triggering those landmines, and of course causing problems for units that are standing on top of them. Yeah. One of the problems with landmines, of course, is they can obviously backfire upon yourself just as easily as they can connect with enemies. Makes it quite difficult to know exactly the right place to put them. Spybot in the backline, by the way. This is the Lavender Commander with a Spybot in the backline, scoping out exactly what's going on. We actually have another Spybot here as well, taking a look at what's going on the high ground here. Advanced Metal Extractor did come up, and indeed 48 metal per second is wonderful. T3 Lab comes up. I don't mind this T3 Lab. I think we should start eating up these solar panels, though. No reason to keep these around if we're going to be transitioning into an advanced fusion reactor. In fact, we eat up the T3 Lab and focus on the fusion reactor. I think that's probably a wise idea as well, getting that fusion reactor up and running before the actual T3 Lab. That way you have the energy to produce the units as well as the metal to produce the units. All the fronts are well drawn, but nobody seems eager to push them. Marauders out from Mr. White 987. At the 22-minute mark, they hit the other side of the field. Not the fastest bundle of Marauders we've ever seen, but obviously the Hot Pink Commander has also been supporting his tan buddy, or his brown buddy, in order to try and keep them alive. Oh, nice catch here with the Karganath, though. Karganath, basically the perfect intercept weapon right here because they have that heat-seeking missile, means that they can connect in a big way against these Marauders. Nicely done like that, and there we go. All but two of the Marauders blasted to smithereens, and the Karganath aren't quite done yet. Nicely done right there by the Cyan Commander. Truth, intercepting those Marauder before they can find any real significant value and shutting it down. Here we go, though. A couple of Marauder do find a frontline fusion reactor from the Green Commander Locopa, going for that fusion where the build power may have been, but now sorely regretting that decision as the T2 fusion reactor pops, chain reacting into the E-converters and leaving the Green Commander with at least 1,000 less energy per second. We still have solar panels on the back line, not a complete loss, and of course you can always resurrect this as well, but certainly stings to lose all that on the fronts. Missiles connecting in a big way. Karganath ready to rip and tear until it is done all the way across the map here. We are building them up in numbers, and I think I prefer the Karganath because this is kind of the trap that I feel like I see a lot of Cortex commanders fall for. When you look at that list of units to produce, the cheapest unit is the Shiva, And if you build a bunch of Shiva, it's likely that you'll be able to connect them with a bunch of T1 and T2 units, but you probably won't get as much value as you would out of a bunch of Karganaths. So Karganath are the long-term thinking solution. Shiva are kind of the immediate band-aid on the bleeding, open, gaping wound solution, right? So it's very difficult to make that call when you're in the heat of battle, but certainly I think I like the Karganath play here a lot better because they're going to find more value overall. Falavion feeling that statement as well as the commander goes down while the arquebuss march directly into the landmines. Arquebuss not heavily armored in any way, so they're going to take a lot of damage from these landmines, at least the initial ones will. But there's enough of them here that they can just trudge on through without really too much backlash whatsoever. Oh, we went for a second Aphis. I'm not sure about that. The second Aphis might be the doom of the yellow commander as the Karganath now march forward. More Marauder continuing to try and find value here, but really pushing into these static defenses. I don't think it's the wisest choice. Yeah, not finding much value over here in the center of the map, unlike these Karganath and Arquebuss that have pushed all the way into the back line and are now going to be finding the T3 gantry, producing some of those heavy-hitting units for the red commander. Build power needs to go, and it'd be easy enough to do if you just pop the E-converters. There they go. E-converters chain react, and it means that there's no longer as much build power, keeping this laboratory up and running. And of course, that does mean that it eventually falls. Mukade, the Legion assault weapon, assault mech, it has quite an assortment of units. It's got rocket launchers, railguns, and miniguns all in one. I think it even has AA, if I'm not... Oh, I guess the railguns are anti-air. Not like it matters, though, here. A beautiful push from Truth as the Karganath roll forward in tandem with the Arquebuss. I actually love that composition. The Arquebuss is a single heavy point of damage, but also anti-air here. So if something like, for instance, abductors were to come out of the sky and try and paralyze a bunch of this, the railguns would be enough to shoot them down. The Tyrannus here trying its very best as well. But again, single heavy target means they're going to be perfect against Tyrannus, dragons, any of those kinds of air units. Yeah, you can see them melting down this Tyrannus right here. Beautifully done. Killer D-guns right here from the Powder Pink Commander. No such D-guns on this northern side, though. Aphis in a lot of trouble. 6-2. Boom goes the Aphis of the Tan Commander. And just like that, this push through the middle of the map has ravaged the bases of multiple different commanders all simultaneously. Pyro Table moving in with some infestors here to try and clean up some of the wreckage. If that isn't just the cheekiest wombo combo I've ever seen. Those infestors can reclaim. They're similar, I guess you could compare them to the Weber. Except that instead of firing an EMP beam, they just fire a straight-up heat beam. It means that they can do a little bit of damage, but also their signature move, they can craft another version of themselves, right? They're a self-replicating robot, an infestation, if you will, should they find themselves into your backline and multiplying at a rapid pace. Obviously, one infestor does not make another very quickly, but two infestors makes it twice as fast, three infestors even faster, and so on and so forth. And my goodness. Is this maybe the most solar panels that there ever was? I think so. I think potentially this is the most solar panels that have ever been built, yeah. My nightmare. We can double click on these here. Yeah, about an Aphis' worth of solar panels for just about 1,000 energy. Quite unfortunate for the Hot Pink Commander, who certainly could have made well use of that by building some more T3 units, but this game has certainly found its close. The Brown Commander now ravaged by the Karganath that marched forward. The last remaining Razorbacks of the Hot Pink Commander also being melted down by these assault bots here, these all-terrain assault mechs from the Karganath Cyan Commander. Sometimes all it takes is the right aggression and the right position, and you can find phenomenal value, and that's exactly what the blue team figured out here, as the red team grew just a little bit too passive, didn't pull the trigger in time. Yeah, and left the team out to dry. Another commander falls as the Hot Pink base goes down. The fighters here to patrol to protect the dragons that are melting down everything in this base that they can. Fusion reactors, metal storages, E-converters, everything and some more. All will be burned away in the flame of the dragon. Fiends also contributing some firepower. Pun well intended. Now the last bastion of any technological progress, the Orange facility. Oh, we've got some extra units enabled here as well. All right. Not that we saw very many of them this game, but yeah, there we go. There's an epic pawn rolling out. It's a pawn, but massive. And for what it's worth, it does a tremendous job. It has quite a lot of HP and it does quite a lot of damage, but for 8,000 metal, yeah, I think you may as well be better off just going for 10,000 metal and paying for a Titan. Boom goes the E-converters. The Aphis is in a lot of trouble here. Hey, are those dragon splits? Hey, we're splitting up the dragons. Nicely done from the Green Commander, not wasting those heavy flying units here. And indeed, the Geos, the advanced fusions, all of it and some more goes down. Batman Hat's the Maroon Commander here, the last one standing for the red team, and away it goes. A thorough sweep from the blue team, just being a bit more aggressive, making bigger plays, and ultimately producing more units and putting them out on the field here. That's really all it takes in the game to win a matchup beyond all reason. But definitely showing us some phenomenal fundamentals. Thanks a ton for watching. I sure hope you enjoyed this learners match, and I sure hope you enjoy some of the other ones. I've got quite a few casts backlogged here in case you're interested in combing through them. I know we're welcoming a large wave of players over from StarCraft 2, so if you're looking for more games to maybe brush up on your tactics, your familiarity with the game, feel free to go peruse the Barcast playlist. It's about, gosh, 500 videos long now. Certainly should keep you satiated if you're a newcomer here. But anyways, thanks a ton for watching, and I will see you in the very, very next one. Peace out, everybody.